Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome to part 2 of Gideon's life. And I have so much to share this morning that I better just jump right in without much review. But the mighty man of valor, the man named Gideon. So he gathers up an army. He is gathering the men because remember, they're going to defeat the Midianites because the Midianites have been bothering them for 7 years. Well, again, Gideon's a little nervous. He's like, am I really supposed to do this, God? Are you sure this is what you want me to do? Can you show me a sign? You know, boys and girls, when I was reading through this, I'm thankful that God doesn't give up on us and say, I told you to do it, just do it. He honors Gideon's request. Gideon asked that if he puts a fleece out on the ground overnight, that when he wakes up in the morning, well, hold on. Before we get to that if, boys and girls, have you ever left a piece of clothing or a blanket or a towel out overnight? What happens? It gets all wet, right? You get the dew all over whatever that item is. But is the dew just on that item or is the dew all around? It's all around. That's right, boys and girls. I don't like to walk through the grass in the morning because I don't like to get wet shoes. There's dew all over the grass. So he says, all right, Lord, I'm going to put this fleece out and I want just the fleece to get wet. I don't want the ground to get wet. Well, he puts the fleece out, goes to bed. Well, that's right. We'll just take a nap here. Wakes up the next morning. He goes out. He checks the fleece. He picks it up off the ground and he's literally able to wring the water out. And the Bible tells us he had a bowl full of water from what he wrung out of that fleece. And I mean, the grass around is probably wet. No, the grass around it was completely dry. God had done exactly what Gideon had asked him to do. That's pretty incredible, boys and girls. I don't know if you've ever, like I said, left something out at night, but pretty much everything gets wet at night. And yet the ground was completely dry and the fleece was wet. Well, Gideon's like still not sure though. He's like, I'm lead all these people into battle. It's a pretty big army. Should I really do this? And he goes, all right, Lord, one more test, just one more. What about the reverse? I will leave the fleece out overnight and then the fleece should be completely dry, but the ground wet. And the Bible tells us in Judges chapter 6, not Genesis, we passed that a long time ago. Judges 6 in verse number 39. And Gideon said unto God, let not thine anger be hot against me, and I will speak but this once. Let me prove, I pray thee, but this once with the fleece. Let it now be dry only upon the fleece, and upon all the ground let there be dew. Verse 40, and God did so that night, for it was dry upon the fleece only, and there was dew on all the ground. God didn't get angry at Gideon. God understands our struggles, boys and girls. God, that's right, Peter. God understands and he loves us. He doesn't say, well, go struggle. I just told you to obey and you didn't do it. God loves us so much that he wants to help us through our struggles. And he does answer both of Gideon's requests to show him his power. Well, now Gideon's got this army and he's going to go up against the Midianites, and the Midianites far outnumber the army that Gideon has collected. Gideon has collected 32,000 men. Boys and girls, sometimes I struggle to lead a class of 24. I can't imagine leading a class of an army of 32,000. But Gideon's looking out at the Midianites and he's going, I don't think I have enough. I don't have enough men. So he goes to God and he's like, God, what do you want me to do? I don't have enough men. And he prays about it. And I mean, God's just going to provide more men because that makes sense, right? No, that's right, Peter. That's not what God does. God says, Gideon, you have too many men. Gideon's kind of scratching his head, rubbing his chin, going, God, I mean, the way I do math, they have way more than I do. And God says, no, you have too many. Tell them if they're afraid to go home. Wait, if they're afraid to go home, yeah, Peter would be leaving. I'd be leaving too, boys and girls. I would not be. I had someone recently tell me I was a scaredy cat because I don't like scary movies. I am A-okay with them labeling me that. I would not be the one going to war. I'm thankful people do for us, But yeah, I'd be in that group that left. So, I mean, what do you think? Only a few people went home, a lot of people? Yeah, the Bible tells us 22,000 men went home. 22,000 men were afraid to go into battle. So he went from 32,000 and he loses 22,000. He's down to 10,000 men. Surely that's enough, and the Lord will be okay with that because he's already got a third of the men he even started with. And God says, not yet, Gideon. You still have too many. Too many? 10,000 men is too many against all the... God, have you looked at them? Have you looked at how many there are? And God says, I have one more test. I want you to take them down to the water. I want you to ask them to get a drink. And when they get a drink, you have to watch how they get a drink. So Peter, if you walk up to the river, how are you going to get a drink? What do you think? What are you going to do? Stick your head in it? Yeah, that's probably the quickest way, right, boys and girls? Just stick your head down, lap it up like a dog does. Well, there's that option. Or the other option was to cup it in their hands and then lick it. Peter's a noisy drinker. And then lick it up so that you can still see what's going on around you. Well, do you want to know how many people did of each? And which group God's going to want to keep? Well, of the ones who cupped it and drank it, there were 300. 300. Of the ones who put their heads down in the water and drank it that way, which would be a lot quicker, 9,700. All right, so is God going to choose to keep the 9,700 or the 300? Well, boys and girls, which one would you pick? Yeah, I'd pick the 9,700. And God says, I want the 300. 300 men to go to battle? But that's what God wanted. Why, boys and girls? Why would God want only 300 men to go to battle? Yeah, he wants to show his power, boys and girls. God was going to deliver the Midianites, and we're going to have to get to that next week. God was going to deliver the Midianites, but it wasn't going to be because of Gideon's strength. It wasn't going to be the strength of those 300 men or the original 32,000. They were going to get to that end of that battle and know that the reason they won was because of God's power, not because of their own power. Boys and girls, that same God who's working with Gideon, who Gideon's taking these requests to, who's being patient with Gideon, is the same God that's patient with you and me, boys and girls. It's the same God who loves you, the same God who loves me, same God who loves Peter, is the same God who was there with Gideon back at this time. That same powerful God is just as powerful today. Have you talked to him, boys and girls? Have you told him that you love him? Have you asked for his wisdom and his power? I hope this week, boys and girls, that you'll spend time in his word and talking to him and getting to know God better, because that all-powerful God loves you so much. See you next week.